The interview we have been waiting for is here. I watched it, so let's talk about it. When Litia applied to be on The Bachelor, she didn't know that Grant was going to be The Bachelor. I think she said she found out about 3 weeks before they started filming, which did make her even more excited for the show. However, she decided to apply after watching Joey's season and thought, you know what, dating out here is hard for a player, so let's apply and see what happens. And she was called the next day. Rightfully so. Beautiful woman. Litia went in there with 2 missions, okay? The first was to find a husband, but the second was to slay it down, okay? Baby girl said she had an Excel sheet with all of her outfits on it, and she would actually text her producer back and forth to figure out, does she need to do more or do less with certain outfits? And she also would go back and watch past seasons of The Bachelor and ask herself, what can she see herself wearing in this moment? And so that's how she selected all of her outfits. Chef's kiss, you looked phenomenal, Litia, literally. And I think we all need to see that list. We said in our last episode that Litia was a venture capitalist. However, she works for a venture capitalist firm, and she's been there for about 9 years. She started at the front desk as a receptionist, and her boss saw something in her, and she's been able to grow and professionally develop at her firm, and she now pretty much manages the portfolios for the companies that her firm invests in. We love that, sis. Litia made it very clear that she is grounded in her faith. However, she lives in a way that's authentic to her and to her sense of self. It doesn't make up all of who she is as a person, which many of us, I believe, can probably relate to. The debate on whether or not Litia considers herself to be a Black Fijian woman is still out. However, she did clarify, yes, her father is from Fiji, and he went to college in Hawaii, which is how he met her mother. And her mother also has some Cherokee in her bloodline, so she does consider herself a woman of color. Of course, there was some natural curiosity about her being a woman of color growing up in a predominantly white family and how that may have impacted her growing up. However, she said that she felt like a princess throughout her childhood. She was rooted in a lot of love and support, which I think you can definitely feel in just how she carries herself. It was also very clear in her hometown visit that her family is very warm and supportive and loving. Grant's profession of love really sped up after the doggy day, and as we saw, they called her mama. And so that is when he pretty much started to say, I'm really falling for you, and was making promises that led Litia into believing that she was going to be chosen at the end. This idea that Litia has some different form of reality than what was going on, just for her, was really shocking because everybody in the room was pretty much saying they thought it was Litia. She even went around and asked to make sure she wasn't feeling crazy. And they all confirmed, yes, we all thought it was you. Her producer even asked her on the way to the breakup, how are you going to feel if it isn't you? And in that moment, she ran down everything that happened up until that moment, and she couldn't even fathom it. Her thought was a hurricane, and her producer's no, seriously, what if it isn't you? And so the entire time she was definitely under the impression, without a shadow of a doubt, especially after being reassured the night before, that it was her. Litia is at peace with Grant's decision. She wishes no ill will on Juliana. She and Juliana have spoken, so she is a little hurt by the fact that Juliana would kind of go on this parade of saying that her and the other women were mean girls. Litia spoke about how she's been very intentional about creating and developing relationships with the other ladies in the house, and how they've been very supportive of each other post-filming. It has also been confirmed that yes, Grant was intimate. She didn't say with who, but he was intimate during fantasy suites. Of course, not with her. All in all, Litia is not a delusional woman. She does not want what's not for her, and we all can learn something from her because she truly carries herself with style and grace. She did say her DMs are open, and so if you about it, you got it, and you're intentional, slide on in.